And welcome to Pirate News, everyone. This is your host, Azaman Dejan, otherwise known as Pirate Joe, uh, otherwise known as the quartermaster for the Massachusetts chapter, coming to you again with probably one of our hottest topics that we've been really pushing, net neutrality. And with us today, we have Captain Jamie O'Keefe and Malt. Um, so really, what I want to do was what is a quick synopsis of net neutrality? If one of you guys can explain for us real quick, so we're all on the same page.
You want to go,
Mal? So basically, net neutrality is the idea that the internet service providers are not allowed to discriminate based on the origin of a data packet. The problem we're going to run into here is that the people that are selling internet access are now also the companies that are producing a lot of the media that's streamed across it. So if an ISP is owned by one media company, they have a financial disincentive to provide fair access to content owned by media B. So we're going to run into a future where we basically have like how cable television networks used to be, where you'd have a set amount of channels in one area and it would be different based on where your provider was located and where you were.
Sure. Additionally, thanks, Mal. That's a great explanation. I mean, additionally, the problem that we get into is, when the internet first came in, if I had a server and I put a packet onto the network and it went to some client somewhere, that was treated like anything else. And there was no metering. There was no, if I sent my packet, I had to send an extra 10 cents for each packet that I send. And now that the Federal Communications Commission has overturned that, the problem that we get into is, as we saw before the rules were put in place by the Obama era FCC, is that a company like Netflix can get its traffic speed dropped dramatically until it pays up $1 million to Comcast or Verizon or whomever in order to get the faster traffic.
Okay.
So it's kind of a pay to play in a sense. Kind of those radio era days are not gone.
Now, not to play devil's advocate, but what about other programs like HBO? That I understand would be a little bit more. HBO wouldn't have to be necessarily bound to having cable television now. That's like the only silver lining I've really seen about net neutrality. But it would still fall into the pay-for-play type deal, like Hulu or Netflix and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, the cable companies grew up and were developed in a way that they had a lock on people's televisions, and the internet was not designed for that. The internet is I could be on one device or on my phone, or I could be on my laptop, or I could be on my desktop or whatever, and I can get packets from all over the world. And it isn't the case that that unlike cable TV, where they can lock down and say, we'll only allow these channels because they're paying us a certain amount of money. This is the internet, baby, and the internet is for everyone, and it shouldn't be locked down or constrained. People should have access to everything. AOL's dead, guys.
Now, sorry, go ahead, Mo.
I was going to say the HBO being the hojillion dollar company that they are, being slightly advantaged by this isn't really much of a vote in its favor, because the vast majority of problems we're going to run into are that the entire internet becomes a walled garden, where in order to succeed, you have to succeed on an already established platform. Like, you don't have the resources to set up the next YouTube. You have, like, if you want your material to succeed online, you have to go to YouTube. If you want people to know about your product, you have to go to Facebook. You can't. It removes the public square aspect of the internet.
So what is really the current state that this is in? Specifically in regards to the 60 days since this bill was passed. We're still within that, correct?
No, so that was the thing that happened today. The Federal Communications Commission made their decision. They said net neutrality is no longer the rule of the United States, and so those 60 days are up, and now the net neutrality rules are in essence gone. Congress still has a bit of time to be able to overrule the Federal Communications Commission. The Senate's already voted by a majority to do that. The House Republicans don't want this bill to come before them. They don't want to be on record.
It's just going to take 50 supporters for the House bill. That only needs 50 more folks to sign on for that.
Right, but they don't want to be on record voting against net neutrality. Overwhelmingly, people in the United States support it because they know, if you go in the phone system, if I call someone, then I'm not going to get charged for calling Bob and then calling Alice. Right?
So we should
traffic.
So should we be asking people essentially to reach out to your congressman and basically try and get them to pony up and get this through? That way, the vast majority of people would be able to have an influence over their local congressman and make this an actual reality. Is that what I'm hearing? Maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in Massachusetts, the entire Massachusetts delegation, I believe, is in support of net neutrality. So really, it's the people. If you have a Republican, get them, and is your House rep, get them on the phone. Get your friends to get them on the phone, and get them to get this to a vote.
There's another individual that we should highlight. Senator John Thune. He's a Republican from South Dakota. He is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. He's in a position to place or to forward some of these legislative solutions, but he's not going to move until he believes that net neutrality has bipartisan support. So even if you're not in South Dakota and you have no political pull with Senator Thune, contacting him anyway to let him know why net neutrality is a bipartisan issue would be probably fairly helpful, all things considered.
And even if net neutrality does end up dying and not going through, what would our one major recourse would probably be like what? The mesh nets. Jamie?
So there are two things folks can do. One, as you mentioned, there's a group called Massachusetts Mesh Network that is trying to build a community-controlled, net-neutral private internet service provider. The idea is that you can get inexpensive hardware. They're coming up with the software to load onto it such that it can become a node on the internet. And we can build community mesh networks, our own sort of internet that's tied to the internet. We've seen this in Germany. We've seen this in Spain. Freifunk in Germany. And people have built alternatives, alternative internet service providers that are then connected to the internet. And that's something that the Massachusetts Mesh Network, or massmesh.org, is working on. They meet every Tuesday between 7 and 9 at Industry Labs in Boston, in Cambridge. They have a meeting coming up. You can find the information at massmesh.org. The other alternative is what Malt was talking earlier about, the Massachusetts legislature. Malt, do you want to talk about that?
So we have seen a handful of states passing state-specific net neutrality laws. Vermont just passed one along with Rhode Island. I think we've seen 29 states pass something like this. There is an issue in the ruling the FCC passed in December. They had a preemption clause that would stop states from enacting net neutrality if that resolution carries weight. But there are also options. Like, I'm not sure exactly what California is up to, but I'm sure they're up to something. There's the possibility, I forget where this was, but I think it was Vermont, is going to fine companies that meter or downgrade service to other websites. So there is the possibility of legislative recourse at the state level.
Okay. Well, so I mean, I really hear two solutions going on here, gentlemen, which is first and foremost, contact your local representative, and it's a real call to action for everybody to pitch in and try and get something done. Now is the time to really control your government, especially when it comes to your internet.
And it is an election year.
And it is an election year, so our voices are more important than ever to these people. So you might as well use them. That, and to continue building out our mesh networks and allowing that to grow and rebuild the internet in our own image. Gentlemen, thank you both for taking the time to reach out to us, and hopefully all your viewers out there, you can like and share and help us grow. I would really appreciate it. And especially those thumbs up. Those thumbs up help us a lot. So thank you, gentlemen, and thank you all. I hope you have a great night.
You too as well, and people can look in the description for links to Mass Mesh or the bills and things like that.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Bye.